And meanwhile, Keith, Simon Zebo, welcome home, Keith. I'm sure they're all saying down there, that's great news. Out of nowhere, really. I mean, I guess his contract had been bubbling away, but suddenly it's all, this wasn't a protracted will he, won't he kind of a thing. It's just suddenly announced.
Yeah, it did come out of nowhere. I only heard about it myself today. So I think it's great news. I think it's a 1-year deal, which I think is the appropriate amount. He either comes back, plays, becomes that senior figure that Andy was just talking about. And it'll be interesting to see what he brings back, because when you get players that have been away and come back, they do bring an awful lot of the things that they've learned from it. Also, it isn't too long. He hasn't a 3 or 4 year contract, so he's coming back. I think a lot of the young guys can learn from him. And I think he still has a high level of ambition. So I think he'd have to get himself back. I think he's put on weight while he's over there. He looks an awful lot of a bigger man than he was. So he may have to shed a few of those pounds. But he'd be fighting for his position. And I think he wants to play for Ireland. So, look, he's back in the country, which means he's available. If he fits into the plans, he didn't fit into Joe Schmidt's plans. If he fits into Andy Farrell's plans, I think it's good all around for everybody.
Andy, he's 31. This 1-year contract co-funded between IRFU and Province. So do you read that as, well, here's your chance now, play yourself into a full-on central contract, and that's what this year is about?
I'm not so sure based on the age profile at 31. I probably lean towards more it's safer to give a 1-year contract. It's more economic that they share the costs. I don't believe they would use that as a carrot to dangle in front of Zebo. I think they'll probably, at 31, they may take a couple more. And given his position, he's an outside back as well. If he was a 31-year-old tight head prop, it's quite different to a 31-year-old winger and fullback. And the contract duration tends to get shorter and shorter as the age profile goes up in those positions. So, I mean, what I would say is I think it's a super move both for Simon Zebo and for Irish and Munster rugby. And when I think there was a huge, when Leinster hit a bit of a period in the from about 99 through to the mid 2000s, they hit a period where they were very much, they weren't quite stagnant, but they weren't winning things. And the likes of Leo Cullen and Shane Jennings went off to Leicester and had a different experience and brought back their experience. And someone like Zebo going away from the Munster setup and coming back in and sharing his experience of different environments and different cultures, that could be quite beneficial to that group, because Munster aren't far away from winning things. They're dead close. They're not quite making that conversion. And it did strike me as a similar type of arrangement when the likes of Shane Jennings and Leo came back in, and they made quite a profound impact on the Leinster culture. And maybe Zebo can help in that way as well, based on the experience he's learned from being abroad.
What about his Irish prospects, Andy? Well,
I think he would very much suit the style of play with which we played against England recently. That high tempo offload game, which we hadn't seen a whole lot of, and just showed how dangerous and capable we are. And I think Farrell, with Paulie in there giving a bit of structure to the set piece, and John Fogarty helping out in set piece and up front, and Farrell and Cat, who are they seem more aligned to chaos and unstructured rugby than Joe Schmidt, for example. And that's why Zebo didn't fit Joe Schmidt's template. But the creativity and the unpredictable way and the talent he's got with which he plays, that suits that style we played against England. So I would have thought if he has a good run, he's right back in the frame.
Keith, a stupid question for a change. Zebo out of contract in this instance, so it doesn't quite apply, but it just got me thinking, these big transfers in rugby. Why have transfer fees never become a thing in rugby?
I think there have been a couple at different times where people have been bought out of their contracts. Mostly contract length, they're short. They're 2 or 3 years for the most part. Also, the amount of money that's been discussed was not significant. And it is significant to the players, but it's not significant compared to football. And I still think we're a very young professional sport, and I think that's probably more likely the case than anything else. And there's very few people, for the most part, if a guy wants to leave a club, they'll say, okay, you can, if you want to go, you don't want to, off you go. And there has been a few instances, but not many.
So buying out the contracts, yeah, but here's 2 million for Keith Wood. Is that day coming?
I hope not, actually. I don't know that there is that amount of free cash in the game. Like if you look at where we are at the present moment in time and how everybody is suffering financially, look, you could have some of the teams might do it from in France where they suddenly throw out a very large check, but I think it would be more for the person than for the club.
Yeah. Certainly won't be today or tomorrow, that's for sure.
No.